family. They love the family, they love the movies.
Hello and welcome to Film with Family. I'm Austin.
And I'm Zach.
And we are two cousins who like to talk about movies. And this week, we have a very special guest. My brother-in-law, Kim's husband, Steve's son-in-law. Just to give some context to our listeners.
Well, backstory.
Richard Boulton.
Hey!
Hey,
I'm
Rich.
here.
And Rich, I would like you to meet my cousin, Zach, who I don't think that you guys have ever spoken or talked to each other before. So
I don't think we have either. Yeah.
Rich, Zach, Rich.
It's nice to meet you, Zach. Yeah, there was one time I thought, when we were doing this, I thought maybe we met in Ann Arbor or something, but I don't think we did. I think it was completely.
I don't know. I feel like you feel like a new face to me, but it's great to meet you.
So, Rich, you just cracked open a brewski.
I did.
You're reporting to us from Colorado.
I'm in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, south of Denver.
Nice. And I see that you have a Telluride Film Festival poster behind you.
I do.
Which is in Colorado, right?
Indeed it is. Yeah.
Have you ever been?
Yes. So that year, actually, it was a pretty magical year. I was working for a small audiovisual company here in Denver. And I got to go down and work the film festival on the lighting crew. So
nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was in downtown Telluride for about 3 weeks. Drove down there with a truck full of lights and my motorcycle on the back. Stayed there for 3 weeks and got to see all the movies for free. It was great. It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was that? It's the 37th, and I think they just had their 50th. So
I believe it was 2010.
Yeah, that checks out.
And the crazy part was it was 2010. I know because it was before me and Kim got married. She actually, at the same time, basically within days of when I left, she flew to Italy and spent like a week there, working for a family, like watching the kids. Mm-hmm. So basically got all expenses for paid trip to Italy, and then came down and stayed with me down at the film festival, and we just hung out. It was great.
Wow.
That was the year that 127 Hours and I think Black Swan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Premiered, and there was one other one.
Did you see Franco walking around there?
I did see Franco, and I ran into Danny Boyle in the bookstore. That was cool.
Oh,
nice.
Wow. That's cool. Did you say hi to him?
I did. I was like, hey, Danny, I saw your movie earlier. I probably said Mr. Boyle. I was like, I saw your movie earlier. I really liked it. And he looked at me and he goes, I was so unprepared. He's like, really? What did you like about it? And I was like,
like when he cut his arm off. That was pretty,
that was
cool.
Good. when he survived and stuff. No, it was pretty good. Yeah. I remember he said at the beginning of it, he's like, it's 127 hours of James Franco. And so if you're not really a Franco fan, now might be the time to,
not a Francophile.
You're not into this. Yeah. No, he was there in the theater too. It was great.
That's awesome.
Black Swan was in I think like the middle school or high school auditorium, but like it was like a big theater set. And, I just had like the staff pass. So you get in after all like the actual, paying customers and all that, So we went to get in line and there was like no way we were going to get into this thing.
Yeah.
You didn't bump into Aronofsky?
No, we did not. But I had the keys. I actually had the key to the theater in my back pocket. So we just went around the loading dock and went in the back and then like went out onto the floor to try and get seats. And there was like one of the ushers like, well, there's a seat there and there's one like 30 rows up over there. I grabbed Kim's hand and I said, all right, the hell with this. And we went up to the catwalk and walked across and watched it from the spotlight booth. It was awesome.
Oh, wow. That's
great.
Like such a cool place to watch
Yeah.
Black Swan too, because like it's
it
just
weird.
such a like a theater kind of movie.
Yeah.
So to watch it like from the rafters
all the way up, yeah, it was crazy. And we had to like
cool.
go across the catwalk because I went out, this is where we've been hanging all the lights, and I looked at Kim. I was like, "Do you have anything in your pockets? Like, give me your purse right now."
We should probably introduce the movie we're going to talk about today.
I
Well,
guess.
yeah. I just wanted to chat a little bit. Okay.
Well, usually we
rush it along.
Usually we like say what the movie is before we get into chit chat, but we haven't even said what the movie is yet.
We're breaking down barriers here, all right?
And today we'll be talking to Rich about a very one of his most favorite movies, I think.
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
Joe Dante's 1989 film, The Burbs, starring Tom Hanks.
All Tom Hanks wanted was a quiet vacation at home.
This is what I need, Carol. I need this.
Welcome to Mayfield Place. A typical street in the Burbs,
Morning, Walter.
where nothing much ever happened
Walter's dog just took a dump on Rumsfeld's lawn again.
until the Klopeks moved in.
Klopex?
Klopex. Klopek. No one goes in, no one comes out.
Neighbors from hell.
It was a nice place to live,
He said he thinks the Klopex are evil incarnate.
Well, you're much too smart to fall for that, aren't you, honey?
but now
Carol!
you wouldn't want to visit there.
Ray, this is Walter.
The Burbs,
I'm going over the fence, and I'm not coming back till I find a dead body.
Ray, do you want him to take your family, kidnap them, tear their livers out, and make some kind of satanic pate? We found Walter!
We got a real problem.
I hit the gas line, I'd run!
God, I love this street.
Tom Hanks,
I think we are overreacting. No.
The Burbs. It's one hell of a neighborhood.
Hey, honey, I think we should move.
Starring peak Tom Hanks, in my opinion.
Peak Tom Hanks. Ooh, we can get into
I don't
that.
Certain type of Tom Hanks. There's several Tom Hanks, all right? And this
Yeah.
happens to be one of my favorite varieties of Tom Hanks.
It's like a very very young Hanks.
Well, and I feel like this movie has like a lot of his kind of like signature one-liners, and the way just kind of his demeanor. It just really captures like young Tom Hanks and all the things. Even when he takes on a serious role, all the little quirks and things are still there. And I think this movie kind of captures a lot of them.
Yeah, you can tell that he's really kind of flexing his sitcom chops because he was in Family Ties and Bosom Buddies in the early 80s, and he's still got that baby face look to him, and he's really just hamming up his comedic beats. He seems like he's playing like a sitcom character in this movie.
Totally, yeah. I mean, then the whole movie's hamming it up, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But he fits in a way that the Tom Hanks we know now, you wouldn't really see him in a role like that. Can't really imagine him in a role like that anymore.
No, absolutely not. I mean,
now he's a man called Otto, which is a very grumpy man.
Yeah.
Very different.
He's also grumpy in Asteroid City.
That's true. Yeah, he's become more of a grump in his recent projects, which is cool for him.
Colonel Tom Parker, not a very nice guy either.
That's true. That's an interesting performance.
Very strange performance. Did you see that one, Rich?
Elvis? Oh yeah, absolutely. That was
he plays
the
Colonel
Colonel
Tom Parker.
Yeah.
He talks like this the whole time.
Yeah, it was odd, but I thought he did a good job. I thought it was great.
Yeah, he brought a lot of energy, made it fun. But yeah, The Burbs, this is the year after he did Big, and he would go on to do Turner and Hooch in the same year. Joe versus the Volcano the next year. But he's like starting to ramp up. Then 93 he gets Sleepless in Seattle and Philadelphia, then Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, Toy Story. He really gets on a big roll in the early 90s there.
Don't forget That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is more, I don't know, just kind of more raw Tom Hanks, not like trying to, like I feel like he's just having fun with it. He's not developing his skills. He's not like out for a, even trying to win an Oscar with this one. It's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, he understands the movie he's in. He's having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like pretty much everyone's having fun with it, I would say, in this movie. I really liked Corey Feldman in this.
Oh, absolutely. Playing himself, basically. Yeah.
How old was he, do you think, when he made this?
I don't know, but I heard that he was not in good shape during the shooting of this film. And apparently, like, Hanks and Dante and Carrie Fisher were like counseling him through the entire movie because he was like getting rowdy and like losing his way as an actor, I guess. And so personally, I guess it wasn't a good time in Corey Feldman's life.
And since then, nothing's changed.
And Zach, you and I might be seeing him in concert next week.
That's true. Yeah, we're gonna see him at Riot Fest probably.
Yeah, and I also saw him at one of Steve's conventions. Corey Feldman was a few tables down, and I just saw him walking around, and he's got this like really weird look now where he looks like kind of a 50s gangster. Like he's got like these big suits and like these big fedora hats. And
he's playing here in Denver on Thursday.
You gotta go.
Pizza dude.
Pizza dude.
Hey. Yeah, I mean, I think it's honestly peak Corey Feldman too. Come on. That may have been the role of a lifetime for him.
I mean, I'm trying to think of what else he's been in, but
The Goonies, right? Was that before or after?
Of course, yeah. Goonies, he's in Gremlins, Stand By Me.
But before we get too deep in the weeds on Feldman, I'm curious, Rich, what's your history with this movie, The Burbs?
So this movie, really Kim introduced me to it. I'm sure I had seen it or watched it partially on TV as you do as a kid, get it halfway through it or whatever. But really it was, after I met Kim in college that it really became something special. Kim always used to talk about how, her dad introduced her to it and they watched it together, all the time. Like he let her stay up late and watch it. And, we kind of got into it and, we just had a lot of the running jokes and, it's just, it's, I don't know, it's my kind of humor, first of all. So it's just cool for me, but it's also just something we kind of bonded in on. In fact, but Kim brought it up to her dad, within the past few years, just kind of made a whole thing of, how special it was. And he was like, what the hell are you talking about? That was your mom. But no, this is kind of one of those ones that, we watched it together early on and laughed our asses off and just kind of have been ever since. And, it's one of those that there's like 4 or 5 one-liner kind of references that have just been going on for, almost 20 years at this point. So it's just kind of ingrained.
Such as,
oh my God. We do, there go the damn brownies, and then
when he drops,
when he falls through the thing, there go the damn brownies. It came with the frame. anytime you're walking through like Hobby or Lobby or something, came with the frame. Just a million of them. There's so many that aren't even funny for, little throwaway ones that other people don't pick up on. The Carrie Fisher, little doggy Graham just came for you. It's like, and we'll still be feeding the dogs in the morning. Ooh, little doggy Graham.
Yeah. That's great. This was my first time seeing it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
My first Burb.
Yeah, it's my first Burb as well.
Wow. I'm really happy to burst your Burb cherry.
Burst your burble.
You should be having a bourbon with a cherry in it, in Manhattan. Yeah. Well, what did you think of the movie then? May I ask?
Well, I wanted to say before we get into that.
I see.
Well, I just wanted to say there is apparently the movie is supposed to take place. I think what is it? It's like Maywood or something like that, or
Mayfield Lane.
Yeah. I think the actual place is supposed to be like in Iowa, but
That's where it looks like on the map.
I've heard rumor, some people have said this to me before I even saw the movie, that it's supposed to take place in Park Ridge.
Really?
Or like a Park Ridge type town, I guess, which is my hometown. So it's weird. We've like somehow circled back to my childhood with this movie.
I could definitely see it being very Park Ridge-y for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, did it feel like Park Ridge to you, Austin, watching the movie? Did this feel like the kind of dynamics that you experienced?
Just like that.
Well, I never experienced this specific dynamics, but
we weren't on a cul-de-sac, you know?
I wasn't on a
A
cul-de-sac.
little different there. There's only one way in, one way out, you know?
It is a bit reminiscent of Park Ridge.
Sure, yeah. Well, I grew up I both grew up in early on and currently live in a fairly what you'd consider suburban area. So it's interesting kind of like going from where I lived when I was like, 8, 9 years old was kind of totally that Mayfield Lane type deal. Yeah, it's just interesting because I lived that and then I moved away for a long time and I feel like I'm, I don't live that lifestyle so much, but there's definitely people around here that do.
Like people who are suspicious.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna, I can't. I'm not gonna go into detail on it, but yeah, no. There's
come on, spill the tea. This is your platform.
Some conspiracy theorists. There's plenty of that going on around here. I'm sure there's some people peeking out their windows at all times. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't live in the suburbs, but there's definitely some neighbors we had that really felt a little backwoods. They felt a little scary. You don't want to go too close to their house.
Yeah.
I'll just say it, the Neelys. They won't hear this.
Now we had kind of a Klopek house next door at our old house in our last neighborhood.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, down to like the gigantic dead tree that had been there for like a decade, and you looked over and there was like 12 satellite dishes on the side of their house, and hadn't been painted. In the backyard, like the grass is like 4 feet long. They were out there the one day, and she had a mannequin head on a stick and was like taking pictures of it.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Weird.
Yeah. So that was a little Klopek-y. It was a little Klopek.
Do you guys like Joe Dante? I'm a big Joe Dante fan. It's maybe not a huge one, but I love Gremlins, Gremlins 2. Those are like movies that definitely define my childhood. I'd say Gremlins is one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Absolutely, as it is. Gremlins was enormous. Like for me, it was one of those that I was like, my older brother was old enough, and I was like on that borderline of like, I don't know if you should be watching this, but I'm going to anyway. I remember being about 7, 8 years old, and it's like, it is my mission to see this movie, and I did. It was great.
Yeah, it's great, and I love Matinee. I don't know if you've ever seen that with John Goodman, and then Small Soldiers was one of my favorites growing up as a kid.
Commandos, attack!
I'm talking about toys that are so smart, when kids play with them, they play back.
Chip Hazard reporting for duty.
You put munitions, chips, and toys?
Yeah, Small Soldiers was big for me. That's definitely the Joe Dante that I watched a lot as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Toy Story, but edgier.
Yeah.
And I love the design of all the Gorgonites, and yeah, I love Small Soldiers. I was obsessed with it. But yeah, I think the only other one I saw was Gremlins 2, which I think I saw for the first time with you, Austin, in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And I never went back and saw the first Gremlins, but the new batch is a wild ride. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Another movie that he did was the Twilight Zone, the movie. He did one of the segments, the It's a Good Life segment. And do you guys know that story about like the kid who you can't like say anything bad? You have to like do anything that he says, or he'll like in the original one, he turns the dad into a Jack in the Box.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror version of it. Yes,
there's a Simpsons version of it and a Joe Dante version of it, which scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. There's this very famous magic trick scene where the boy like forces his uncle to do a magic trick, and this like hideous rabbit creature comes out of the hat, and they're all supposed to just act like it's all everything's all good. And it's terrifying. But it's funny because this movie reminds me of a Twilight Zone episode called The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. It takes place almost in exactly the same type of setting, like on a cul-de-sac. And the episode starts with a spaceship kind of like coming overhead and then disappearing. And then all of a sudden, like people's electricity doesn't work. And then some people's houses, the electricity does work. And so they're like suspicious of that person.
Charlie, the lights just went on in your house. Why did the lights go on in your house?
What about it, Charlie? How come you're the only one with lights now?
It's Tommy! He's the one!
Oh, that's not true.
It's basically the neighbors all start teaming up against different people. And basically the moral of the story is like the real monsters are man.
Understand the procedure now? Throw them into darkness for a few hours and then sit back and watch the pattern.
And this pattern is always the same?
With few variations. They pick the most dangerous enemy they can find, and it's themselves.
Then I take it this place, this Maple Street, is not unique.
By no means. Their world is full of Maple Streets. And we'll go from one to the other and let them destroy themselves. One to the other.
See, but that's what I love about this movie is like it totally goes through that whole wave of like, you know, the paranoia and the tongue in cheek and all that. And they really are crazy. It's like the whole time they're setting it up and you're just like, oh, well, here's, you know, there's going to be some twist and something at the end. It's like, nope, it's exactly what they thought the whole time. It's like,
should we do a little plot bop on this?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, I'm always going to promote a plot bop.
Let's see here. We start out with a shot from space, right? Zoom in, right, to somewhere nowheresville, America. Looks like somewhere in the middle of Iowa to me, but as you said, possibly Park Ridge. Point being, suburban, generic as possible. Here we go.
Real quick, I like how the movie starts. It's the Universal logo, and they actually zoom into the Earth behind the Universal logo. It's like, okay, nice touch.
They do. It is very nice. We meet the neighbors on this street. Tom Hanks's character, Mr. Peterson. I really should know all their first names. What is his first name?
It's Ray.
Ray Peterson. We meet his family. They're talking about going on vacation. His wife wants to go to the lake, and all he wants to do is kind of hang around, do nothing for the summer. He's going to have a nice, quiet week at home. He's talking about fixing the barbecue and staycation. Exactly. His wife's kind of annoyed with it, but she goes for it. Cue our introduction to Art. He comes in and he's hunting crows, I believe. Yes. Shoots the head off of one of Ray's the owl, which I assume Ray has put up to keep the crows away. Anyway, we get into the discussion of the neighbors. We haven't seen them. We don't know anything about them. The boy says he believes he saw them digging in the backyard, possibly grave digging. We go from there. I believe we meet Ricky, the neighbor kid. He's hanging out, painting his house, and he's an ongoing. This is Corey Feldman. He's an ongoing presence in the movie. He's just really loving this entertainment. He just sits and watches the whole show go down. He's narrating, and I guess he kind of serves as the narrator, right?
Yeah, he's like the audience surrogate, kind of. Yeah,
exactly. Ricky and Bruce Dern's character come on about the same time. Bruce Dern being the retired military. I don't know if we know exactly what branch of the military he's from. I assume Army.
Yeah.
but comes on out.
He said he's done 18 months in the bush. I assume is Vietnam.
I assume, yeah. Side note: I've seen this movie many times. This past time watching is the first time I've noticed that in the beginning, his car, which I think is a Corvette, on the driveway, he has like a camo, like a car cover over it, but it's like a bush, and it looks. I've just never noticed it before, but it's like, why is that bush on his driveway? Yeah. Why is that bush the shape of a car? Wait a minute.
He's just camouflage everything.
Everything, absolutely.
And then Art has that really weird bush camouflage when he's trying to shoot the crow.
When he's trying to shoot the crow, he comes out. Yeah.
Everybody's hiding in the bushes, literally.
Yeah, no, I mean, these neighbors take it very seriously, and it's kind of the the whole tongue in cheekness of it is just this. Mm-hmm. Everyone's acting completely ridiculous. And it, really just sets the stage for, hey, what's going on with these other neighbors that we don't know? So I believe the first we see of the actual Klopeks.
It's when Hans
is it in the garbage
comes
scene?
Out. Well, no, I think it's like Hans comes out to the porch.
He does. This is one of the aforementioned ongoing quotes that Kim and I have is, when they're sitting there arguing about who's going to go over, and you go over, and well, he's your neighbor. Well, I mean, you're across from him. Well, we're all on the same street.
You could go say hi to him too.
Yeah, but he's your neighbor.
Well, no, he's your neighbor as well.
No, but I'm over. You share a property line with him.
We're all on the same block, so I mean, you could go too. So.
No, we're all in the same town too, but you're right next to him. If you were going to say hi, you should probably. There, he's going into the house. You're going to lose him because he's going to go in. Well, there, now you've blown it, haven't you?
No, I didn't blow it. He went into his house.
Chicken?
I'm not chicken because he went into his house.
Well, he went into his. You look like a chicken in front of your son and everything. Your son.
Your son. But then our second, I believe, scene also with Hans, and also way up there, one of my very favorites is the driving the garbage out to the curb.
Right.
They're sitting watching the house, and the garage door opens, and Hans just comes out in this old car, drives out to the end of the driveway, throws the trash in the can, and just beats the crap out of it.
Yeah.
In the storm, the storm really picks up, and And the funniest part to me is he just, if you really watch this scene, he drops the trash in there, does this whole dramatic, beats the shit out of it, and puts the lid back on, and it's really not any more in the can than when he started. Like, it just doesn't look any different at all. So it's just, I really got a lot out of that one.
But yeah, they really, when they see that, they're like, okay, we're definitely onto something here. I've never seen someone beat trash like that before.
I've never seen that. So this really kind of kicks him into high gear, I believe, on the investigation.
Well, yeah, the next day they literally root through the garbage truck trying to find what was in there, which is
the Garbies.
The Garbies are here.
I got to say, I looked up those two garbage men, first of all, are fantastic.
Oh, yeah. So one of them is Dick Miller, who's in like all of Joe Dante's movies. He's in Gremlins, Gremlins 2. Just a very, very recognizable character actor. Right. Great guy.
The fantastic guy, and he does a great job. His partner in crime there, though, whose name I'm not remembering, but I looked him up too because I thought he was super familiar, and really nothing else. But yeah, just a great duo, those two.
Yeah.
Also
when
notable,
they're rooting through the trash, and he's like, "Well, they say when it leaves the curb, it's like public property, so you can do whatever you want."
The Supreme Court ruled.
Yeah,
he has a right to know.
Yeah.
One of my other very favorite details is that pile of garbage just stays there for the entire rest of the movie. Everyone drives over top of it. It doesn't move.
That's one of my favorite parts of this movie because I think they did shoot it in sequential order.
I think they must have.
And they had the whole Universal Studio lot. And so everything that happens in the movie is like a permanent fixture if you ever go back. Like the owl's head is still shot off.
Is it still there? Kim was saying,
yeah. There's one
Desperate
scene where they go
Housewives
by it,
now,
and
right?
like the head is still off the owl. Just like anything that happens in the movie is like a permanent stain on the movie.
Totally, no, it is, and it's even down to like, even down if you look at like the backyard where all the holes are, right? There's like a shot from above where they're like digging in the dark, and then they go over and they're digging, and it's like obviously exactly the same.
Yeah.
Which
it should be,
Absolutely,
That's good filmmaking. Good continuity there.
Who's gonna clean all this up? Why, you're gonna clean it up because you're a garbage man. One of his best lines in the movie.
All right, so they go through the trash.
They go through the trash. Their wives freak out, and this is, I believe, the lead into our introduction to the rest of the family. The ladies say, "All right, stop being ridiculous." Carrie Fisher and Bruce Dern's wife, Mrs. Rumsfeld, can't remember her name.
The sex kitten.
Yeah, exactly. No tan lines. Very nice.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Feldman moments. Looking good.
No tan lines this morning, Mrs. Rumsfeld.
And then what does Bruce Dern say? He's like,
the kid's a meatball. A meatball, I think is what he said. They make the brownies, march on across the street with the military music.
There's like an overhead shot of the American flag.
Whenever they're like marching. Yep, exactly. He's got the brownies up on the tray. Cue fall through the porch. I believe for the second time that somebody falls through the porch.
Yeah.
The first time being with the bees. There go the damn brownies. Pick them up. Answer the door. Here you go, Sonny. Little something for the old sweet tooth. In you go.
Right, I think you missed the bit that Walter goes missing. The older neighbor. That's a.
Was that before?
Yeah,
that's after they broke into the house.
Super suspicious, right?
I am out of.
They find his toupee in the house. Like go into Walter's house, and he's not there, but his toupee is there.
You're correct, because that's where they retrieve it from. All right. Back it up. After the garbage scene, they find Queenie outside by herself. Go to let her in.
That's the dog.
Queenie's the dog.
Yep.
The dog.
Fun fact about Queenie:
same
dog in Silence of the Lambs.
Correct. Absolutely, yeah.
A great actor. It's like a little mini poodle or something.
Yeah.
Cute
it's
dog.
Like 7, probably about 5 pounds. Fantastic scene, by the way, with the just real chef's kiss with the zoom in when they first are looking at the Klopak house. And I believe this is actually when he comes out to get the paper, and everyone's intently watching.
Yeah, there's some intense zooms in this movie.
But the last intense zoom is on the dog, and the dog's like squinting its eyes. I was cracking up at that shot of the dog.
It was very good.
It's so funny.
All right, so backing up to they break into Art's house ultimately, right? I think Art breaks the window, or possibly no, it's Bruce Dern.
He cuts it out.
Yeah, a soldier's way saves the day. They break into Art's house. They find his toupee. And they all freak out about it. They go and basically they break a bunch of stuff. Art's like smoking cigars, walking around, talking like Walter's dead, just making the assumption. One of my other favorite scenes, because this is like Art's just always eating whenever he's in the kitchen, so he's got a plate of something out, and they come through and just smash the plate. Fantastic scene.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I got some homemade cookies in the fridge," and then Feldman flies through the door and smashes the cookies.
Okay, let's get out of here.
If you look online too, there's outtakes of that, and the guy who plays Art, Rick DeCommon, it's him doing that scene like 6 times, and Feldman keeps missing the cookies, and like Rick seems like genuinely annoyed that he's not coming through the door at the right time.
You got to keep doing this over and over.
Apparently Hanks and this Rick guy did not get along either.
Oh, really?
Rick seems a little prickly. Prickly Rick.
Prickly, huh? Interesting.
There's some real tension between him and Hanks in the movie. Definitely. I could believe it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even, it's in character. I can imagine, wouldn't be an easy neighbor to have. All right. So we get out of the house, freak out, come to Jesus with the wives. Now we go over to the Klopak's house. Mm-hmm. Very awkward, dark, dingy. once again, some of my very most favorite scenes in here. The what's your name? Hans. Oh, a fine Christian name. Hans Christian Andersen. What are you, Catholic?
We were just talking about Hans Christian Andersen in our Little Mermaid episode.
It's all connected.
Hans Christian Andersen. They just make it generally awkward. Everybody handles everything in the worst possible way they could.
Yeah.
Particularly Bruce Dern. Yeah.
Bruce Dern.
He's really sticking it to the Klopex.
Literally tearing the wallpaper off of the walls.
Yeah.
I think of it every single time I'm anywhere that has wallpaper and there's just like a teeny bit. I'm just like, I just want to
rip it. And then he's like, oh, I should have, like, tries to like put it back.
And you knew you were doing it. You just kept going.
And like the family is looking directly at him. Like they're in the couch that's facing him. It's in plain sight that he's like
the
destroying
most awkward thing I could possibly do right now. Yeah, it's great. And they're just all so weird. Everything about it. The sardines.
Yes.
Yeah, pretzels and sardines.
I'm trying to cut back.
Yeah. That's great. And God, like all the like little like squish noises that they make, like of him like putting his fingers in the sardine can. It's just like sounds so gross.
Carrie Fisher, she really sells him up the river on that one, big time. Hold on, have one.
I like when Bruce Dern's like, Klopek, what is that, Slavic? And he's like, no. Got a 9 on the tension scale, Rube.
Got a 9 on the tension scale, yeah, Rube.
It's a great line.
There's one other thing I think that we glossed over is there's a conspiracy that they're Satanists.
Oh, yeah.
I think we did gloss over. I think that's before the garbage scene because there's he goes over and he's talking about the incubus, the succubus.
They have a book that's called The Theory of Demonology. And
you're chanting, Ray. You're chanting.
I'm not going to listen to this now.
I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is a pal.
Yeah. Incredible chants in this movie. Yeah, that's from like the little Satan sacrifice dream sequence.
Yeah, well, no, that's what Art says to him first, and then he hears it in the dream sequence.
Yeah, when he's on a giant barbecue.
Yeah. No, and I think because afterwards, this is where he came up because and I guess the other thing we missed too was the whole ice pick story. Yeah, I really kind of screwed this up, did it out of order. Art tells the ice pick story. The guy with the making the phosphates. Right. He tells the whole story with Corey Feldman. This is early on, and really kind of plants the seed about the murders that happened in the hot summer, and the guy, the ice cream guy, killed his family. Because that's who Art comes back in the dream as too.
Yeah. Well, the movie is a little bit scrambled, so it's okay to have a plot bop that's all over the place here because I definitely a few times was like, did I miss something? And I did like rewind like some of those big conversations. There's a lot of expository dialogue going on.
Yes.
So they go into the house.
Now,
well, you missed a bit about the femur. They find the femur.
I was going to say that was before that's also before they go in the house.
The digging.
It was the femur and the digging is before they go in the house. So yeah, it really happens a lot later than I thought. So all right.
Yeah, this is our most in-depth plot.
This is a whole episode is going to be a plot.
Well, all right. Well, we can speed it up a little bit.
Let's get Let's get through it. We got to get every single.
We got to get through it. All right. We're going to back it up. We're going to back it up one more time. Pre-house.
We're going to actually just talk about this whole movie backwards.
We're not giving them credit, really. I guess the problem is I've seen the movie, so it seems obvious to me from the start. I'm not giving them really credit on like the journalistic journey that they all went on here and covered the details because you're correct. There were several scenes. There was the femur bone. There was also the note. So it was following him putting the note. So they leave Art's house. Ray writes a note that says he rewrites it several times. He ultimately just says, I have your dog, and puts it in the box, and he puts the toupee in the box too, right? Yeah. I believe it's following that evening is when he has the dream, right? Yes. When they go through the incubus, succubus, they talk about the book. Mm-hmm. He has the dream, human sacrifice, lots of chanting. cue the next day. He hasn't slept. That's when he's out back, and he's got the he's got
orange
like
juice
next to him.
He's just like slowly drinking that orange juice. I love that.
I was thinking watching Mr. Rogers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I think.
bit.
Oh yeah, and the night before he has the dream.
That was in the morning. Yeah. Well, and he's watching like The Exorcist and
yes,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
There's Texas Chainsaw. There's The Exorcist, but I've never been able to figure out what the first movie is that's on.
Oh, I just learned
with the actual sacrifice.
It's a real movie.
It's a
I assume it is. I mean, the other two are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The backyard scene. I think he's trying to ignore all this stuff because it's like Corey Feldman says, you know, he doesn't want to believe that his neighbors are up to no good because then he's got to deal with it, right? I feel like he's at this point in the movie, he's like kind of just dove in and enough that he's like exhausted and he's decided like, nope, I'm out, I'm over it. And then here comes Art, and he kind of snaps for a second. So he's crushing the beer cans, freaking out. And, you know, this is to me this plus one of the scenes at the end, which we'll get to. This is like Tom Hanks really like developing his classic freak out. You know, like he's just. You know, this is like one of his, like the epitome when he gets the cans and he crushes them and throws them. Oh, I'm just trying to get some goddamn sleep. I just want some sleep. It's just so much class for this one.
Just trying to have a vacation.
All I wanted to do was stay home and fix the barbecue. Oh, and that's another good detail. If you ever notice that scene, and that's when he's sitting across from the barbecue, and it's like this big outdoor like brick oven thing, and it's completely falling apart. He's like, "No, I'll fix it this week. I will." It's like, you're not fixing that.
Oh, by the way, that movie is called Race with the Devil.
Race with the Devil. Mystery solved.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like two of the most iconic horror movies ever. Than like that one.
Than this one.
Yeah.
Well, it had this sacrifice scene in it, so it was important.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I love that dream sequence. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
He's like, just mind your business.
Yeah.
Don't let them do to you what they did to me. All right, so backyard scene. Art comes in. Ray's pissed off about it. They're talking. Art's trying to convince him to get back into this thing, and he really doesn't want to. This is when Queenie shows up, and she's got a gigantic bone. Art's playing fetch. He says, "Ray, do you know what this is?" It's a bone. The femur bone. They freak out. Yet another just fantastic, camera shot is when they realize and they just start screaming and just the zoom in and out. It's so cheesy.
It's Walter.
It's so cheesy but so perfect.
Only Joe Dante has the bravery to do something that dumb in a movie.
It's like just go crazy with the zooms, man. Just in and out, in and out, in and out.
Beautiful. Yeah, it was perfect. This one they throw the note back over, and now Tom Hanks is like, "Oh, okay, this is really happening. This is really happening." So, have we covered everything? Are we back to meeting the Klopex? Can we meet the Klopex?
I think we're at the Klopex now. I think we
can. So now we get to the Klopex house. Go inside with the brownies. Get the sardines.
You meet Hans and
tear the walls up. We meet Hans. And then we meet the doctor. He comes up. We find out he is apparently a painter. He's been painting, but he's got like blood all over his hands. Says it's paint, but we don't.
Yeah, Tom Hanks shakes his hand and it's just like covered in blood.
The candles on the table are also one of my favorite details. It's like, thought the candles would be nice, and there's just like 50 of them all. It's like a campfire in the middle of the table.
The actor that plays the doctor, he's a familiar face to me. I was like, who is this guy? I know I've seen him before. His name's Henry Gibson, and he's like a character actor that shows up in movies like Magnolia, Nashville, The Long Goodbye. He plays small parts in a lot of great movies. So I was like, oh, just one of those faces that pops up in movies.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Bells were ringing for me too when he walked on screen. I was like, who is this guy?
He's got kind of like a Eastern European Paul Simon, Northeastern. Like Paul Simon was Swedish.
Oh my God, you just nailed it. You nailed it. Like a Nordic Simon.
It's kind of what he looks like to me. He's as weird as the rest of the family, basically. But he's a doctor. Oh, it'd be nice to have a doctor in the neighborhood. Of course, and then there's Bruce Dern like turning the painting over like a bazillion times, being as awkward and weird as he could be.
There's another Twilight Zone connection to that painting.
Is there?
So like Rod Serling had this show called The Night Gallery,
okay.
And that painting was a prop from that show. So there's a lot of Twilight Zone, Rod Serling connections going on here.
But yeah, I just remember, kind of like Tom Hanks kind of like freaks out at some point during this Klopek hangout, and he like opens up like the basement door, and a Great Dane busts through a window.
Yeah.
Yep. All hell breaks loose.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody freaks out.
You didn't say you had a horse in this house, or what does he say?
You keep a horse here? Yeah, it's Bruce Dern, I believe. And I believe that just kind of everyone's embarrassed. They go back to the house, and of course, Bruce Dern and Art, they're both as enraged than ever. Totally still on the hunt. The wives are very embarrassed. Want them to call this whole thing over, and Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks makes like he's good, but then twist.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. He is. No. He found
he was just lying to his wife.
He's just lying to his wife. Yeah.
There's a lot of like anti-wife talk in this movie.
Listen to your wife. Who listens to their wife?
Why don't you be a man and stand up to your wife?
It does feel like very cliche kind of suburban behavior, though, just to hate on your wife and all that.
Yeah,
seems very classic.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was the comedy of the day. It was.
Doesn't mean it's right. We should all respect our wives.
We respect all women,
especially wives.
But they find out like the Klopeks, they're gonna be out of town the next day, so they're like, "Oh, this is our perfect time to do our investigation, our big infiltration."
They said they're going up to the university apparently to talk about moving again. They also touched on the naps while they were in there too. We never heard about the naps up until this point. Apparently, the people that lived there before, they didn't really know very well either, but were presumably fairly normal people. And they mentioned them, but they kind of touch on, well, I didn't see a moving truck, and he says it was out there all day, which was very strange.
Oh, Rube, he's at a 9.
About a 9 on the tension scale. But they do kind of touch on that little foreshadow of like, well, hold on, are these people crazy? Was there a moving truck? Was there not? Apparently, nobody saw it, right? So, little plot development. Give them some credit for asking the right questions.
Yeah, that's when Tom Hanks gives his like speech, and he's like, "Tomorrow, I'm going over that fence.
I'm going over, and I'm not coming back
until I find a dead body." And his like eyes are so wide, and he's not blinking at all.
Yeah,
it's about 20
push in on his face. Like
he's serious. Oh yeah. Oh, I see. I'm telling you, you get all sides of Tom Hanks in this movie. You get it's just a real, a well-rounded performance.
Yeah. Speaking of a foreshadow of a great career.
Yes. We go into. I believe we start bright and early the next morning. This is when Carrie Fisher is leaving for the day. The Klopeks have gone, and he sends her up to the lake with his son. Yeah. Art comes over first thing in the morning in his crazy golf get-up outfit, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna play so much golf, we'll be so tired to get a gun."
Yeah.
She leaves the house, and then the action really begins. Cue Bruce Dern and all his military stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna break into the house. They gotta cut some electrical wires. They get in, do some digging in the backyard, go investigate inside the house.
Also, Feldman invites over his buddy Steve Coons. He's like, "Hey, dude!" He's got the big afro.
Shut up and paint your house.
Yeah, you got Bruce Dern on the roof with a sniper.
Animal crackers. He's sitting with his
animal crackers.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, then there's that bit where Art gets like electrocuted and like flies off the ladder or whatever. Very reminiscent of Jurassic Park. when the kid flies off the fence and gets electrocuted.
It's all connected.
Well, yeah, and you got Bruce Dern. I mean, father of Laura Dern, obviously.
Oh my God, another connection.
Another connection.
Yeah, this movie is also made me remind me of Blue Velvet in the way it depicts suburbia, and obviously another Laura Dern movie. So another connection there.
Wow. Bust out the red yarn and the pins.
Yeah.
So they cut the power, not without being electrocuted. Go over the fence. They actually did manage to kill the wiring. This is when Tom Hanks and Ray and Art, sorry, I keep mixing. They go over the fence, start some digging, start some investigating, and eventually end up in the house in the basement, investigating, looking for anything they can find. They find nothing in the backyard. There's holes all over the place. One of my other favorite lines when they're investigating and they see the furnace, and Art says to him, a home furnace. You think that's supposed to go to 5,000 degrees? You think?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else is going on, because this sequence goes on for quite some time when Tom Hanks is digging in the basement. Art's standing by. I believe this is when Corey Feldman's got the whole group, the whole gaggle over. It's basically turning into a party over at his place. Mm-hmm. Pretty hilarious because, he's still got like all the paint cans out throughout the whole thing, like where he spilled the paint on the speakers at the beginning of the movie. And like, there's literally like one pillar of the entire house that's painted, and that's it. He's done absolutely nothing the entire weekend, but he's got the whole group over. This is when he calls the pizza dude because everyone's about to leave. Oh man, we're going to go get some McDonald's or something. No, that's the best part. I called the pizza dude. Now, cue the Klopex return the first time, right? Mm-hmm. They come back. They see what's going on. They see that I believe they must see them in the basement.
Well, they explode the house, don't they? Before they come.
Well, no, they show up with the police.
No, they show up and then they just back away and they leave. And then Art gets home, and Bruce Dern spots Art getting out of his house and tries to radio in that they're home, and that's right around when the police show up also with the Klopex. So what happened? The Klopex came home, saw what was going on, and they went to get the police.
Right.
And then around the same time they show up, Hanks hits the gas line. It comes running out of the house, and all hell basically breaks loose.
The house explodes in grand fashion. Art
makes it out. Ray does not make it out, but kind of comes dramatically stumbling out through the flames. Very dramatic music.
He's in the house when it blows up, and he walks out with a black eye for some reason.
A real shiner of a thing.
It's
like
pretty funny.
The whole house blows up, and he's just like, "Oh, I just got hit in the eye."
Yeah, by something. Well, who knows? There's stuff flying around, but he's in a bad way, obviously.
It's a pretty cool shot when he walks out because like that whole
it all crumbles
of the roof. Mm-hmm. Like, crumbles right behind him as he walks in.
Yeah.
They must have only had one shot for that,
I assume so.
He has like no reaction to it crumbling behind him.
No.
He has no reaction to anything. Like he almost gets shot by his friend and he's like, whoa. And then like the chainsaw goes through the wall. He's just like, what the heck? Like he doesn't really like react too much to these near-death experiences.
No. Interesting. I was watching that too. I thought the same thing. They must have really only had one shot at destroying that house.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me was if you really watch that scene too, there's like a lot of like the railing and stuff that's like kind of in front of him, like it collapses, but then gets like pulled back. Yeah, so I feel like they like most of that must have been on like cables or something, and they must have yanked it somehow.
So now we're at the ending of this film, which
yes, this is the final scene.
Well, can we just say that? Okay, I think this is the end of the Plot Bop because the end is like its own thing. It's like it is. Takes many twists and turns. Great job on the Plot Bop, by the way.
Why, thank you.
Even though we're still talking about the
Not
movie.
there.
But the ending is different.
We're still going to go back to like 3 other things that we missed. It's going to happen.
All right. The plot bop continues.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
There's still more plot.
This is one of several times that Tom Hanks has gone from like, this is happening. I'm in denial. My neighbors are crazy. No, it's not happening. Oh, wait, it is happening. No, it's not happening. And he's at this like final low point where he's just like, no, I give up. I am 100% defeated. I literally just got exploded. And, my life is over. I'm probably going to jail is where he's feeling.
Yeah. He has the big speech. We're the lunatics. It's us, not them.
Remember what you were saying about people in the burbs? Are people like Skip? People who mowed their lawn for the 800th time and then snap? Well, that's us! It's not them! That's us! We're the ones who are vaulting over the fences and peeking into people's windows. We're the ones who are throwing garbage in the street and lighting fires. We're the ones who are acting suspicious and paranoid. We're the lunatics! Us! It's not them!
And again, very reminiscent of that Twilight Zone episode. I'm just going to say it again. Like, there's literally like that exact speech in the movie.
I believe you.
Just watch Twilight Zone, guys. It's a great show.
I have to say, his wife. You want to talk about Ray not reacting to anything in this movie? His wife is incredibly supportive. Definitely more supportive than my wife would have been to this debacle, I have to say.
Your wife? You listen to your wife?
Just at the end when the house has already exploded and he's just sitting there in bandages and she's just like, oh, honey.
While the cop is like reciting all the crimes.
All the charges. Oh, honey, you and your ink.
She's like, yeah, that's my husband.
Oh, well. So he throws himself in the ambulance and in comes the doctor. Tom Hanks obviously is very apologetic for blowing up his house. Tells him all about how he's going to come back and when he gets out of jail, he's going to come and help him rebuild his house, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
He references back to the tools from the beginning.
Yeah, he's got the tools.
My father-in-law gave me this tool set. and the doctor does not believe him. Because apparently through all their searching, they did not look inside of the home furnace that goes to 5,000 degrees. Calls him out. Here we find out the ambulance driver is none other than Hans. He floors it, tries to get out of there. Tom Hanks is fighting for his life. Little mini chase scene, I guess. Crashes into the pizza dude. About 1 million pizzas come flying out. And ultimately, I believe it is the stretcher comes flying out of the back of the ambulance.
When he crashes into Art's house.
He crashes through Art's front door.
Stretcher falls out.
Boom, opens the Klopex trunk. Tom Hanks makes a citizen's arrest, apparently.
Citizen's arrest! Citizen's arrest!
Well, what's in the trunk?
Well, the police come on over while Tom Hanks is shouting about this, and I think it's Dr. Klopex says, you have no evidence. And Corey Feldman looks under and he says, we do now, bro. Whips open the blanket. Dunna, skeletons, bones all over the place. They were right the whole time. Who saw that coming?
Filled with bones.
Skulls. Bones.
Bones. Apparently he only collects the skulls, though, so...
Yeah.
I'm a little confused about why. I guess they must have dug them up because they knew everybody was... I guess I've never really broken down this part of the plot, but why did they have the bones in the trunk? Was it because they knew they were going to come over?
Well, this is why I was saying I think like the discussion about the ending has to be its own thing.
I think it does.
I'm very confused by the ending. Like, what is it that the doctor says to him? Like, he's like, I want your bones. He's like, I want your skull. And he's like about to like put a syringe in him.
So when he's in the ambulance, what he says to him is, he's basically like, I don't believe you. Right. And Tom Hanks is like, what, you don't? He's like, no. Right. And what he says is, he goes, calm now. You expect me to believe that you were in my basement and you didn't look inside my furnace and you didn't see my skulls. So he collects the skulls and I guess he burns off the flesh and whatnot in his furnace. So apparently there were some in there, but this is the part that doesn't make sense to me, and there must be an explanation because, I can't imagine there would be a plot hole in such a perfect film as this. But why does he have a trunk full of bones and he left some in his basement? It seems like they dug up the bones from the backyard, but maybe missed the femur because they thought everyone was suspicious, but then they loaded him in the trunk.
But what is he doing in general?
Seems very sloppy. He collects them. I told you, they're ghouls. They're ghouls.
Is it illegal to collect bones? What's so bad about having a bunch of bones?
Well,
Zach,
I don't know.
Fighting for the bone collectors out there. There's nothing wrong with collecting a few bones, guys.
I mean, if the only evidence you have is having a lot of bones, then I don't know if you can convict a guy and just a guy having bones, is what I'm saying.
You can't citizens arrest him.
I mean, as horrible as the suburbanites are, I mean, I always took away that they were vindicated in the end. But I mean, I don't know. Are you saying that maybe I've been interpreting this film all wrong, or are they just like,
no?
I mean, it's clear they're bad guys by the end of it. Yeah,
I think so.
Well, he cops out to it though, the doctor, and saying that he was up to something no good, right? Because
he does.
And there's also the revelation that Walter was in the hospital, and there's like the whole toupee thing was a big misunderstanding, and
yeah, because the Klopeks were collecting their mail, and that's why it was in between the magazines. Because he's like, oh, when he pulls it out, he says, "I found this in the Klopeks house, in between magazines that were addressed to Walter," which makes sense because it was in the mail.
So yeah, the ending is basically we think that it's they're not the crazy ones. Everybody else are the crazy ones.
Right.
And they're about to get arrested, but then they don't get arrested. Actually, they weren't crazy.
No.
He does have a trunk full of bones.
Right.
And then Corey Feldman looks straight at the camera and says, God, I love this street.
God, I love this street. Yeah.
Credits roll.
Man, my main takeaway here is that they were right this time, and that's going to vindicate them and embolden them, and they're definitely not going to be right the next time that they think there's something crazy going on. I think that all of these people probably just ended up in jail ultimately.
Yeah. Ever heard of a little thing called breaking and entering?
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes in the movie after they break into Walter's house, and he takes the whatever it is off the side table and puts it in his pocket. And Ray goes, "Do you want to not steal that from our neighbor's house?"
Well,
we made it through the movie.
I mean, to me, that's what the movie is. Like this movie is all details. It's not it's the best part of it, right? Like, yeah, there's a plot we can get into and talk kind of slightly more deeply about, but like the things that the actual storyline is so unimportant to me compared to the way they tell it,
Mm-hmm.
It's just the little tidbits everywhere. That's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, the strange lines and the looks and the dogs.
Yeah, just all their weirdness about them, and they just it's really the focus of the movie.
Yeah,
I'll say that I had a good time with this movie. I know Austin dodged the question earlier, but I'll say I had a good time with the Burbs. But I kind of agree with Austin. The ending kind of threw me for a weird loop. I didn't love the ending. It just felt like it was a little too crazy. It didn't need the extra double back on the twist kind of thing. That felt that kind of took me aback. But
the double back. What? So you thought the Klopeks were going to be innocent?
Yeah, I kind of like that subversion, and like the paranoid neighbors being proven assholes. That felt right morally, but then for them to be like, oh, we were right all along. All of our crazy shit we were doing was justified. Like that just doesn't feel right to me. But it's a goofy movie. It doesn't really matter. But that was just like kind of how I felt on the first watch.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, I didn't expect it. Which I guess is kind of the goal there, the double triple fake out. Even the takeaways that you can have about suburban life and the ridiculousness of it all. Like, I mean, I think it was definitely, obviously it was playing on that, but in terms of trying to make any larger social commentary or anything like that, I mean, I just feel like it's removed from that. Like, I don't think at the time and genre that this movie comes from, I think that wasn't even on the radar. It's just silly, you know, and it just doesn't apologize for being so, you know.
Question I have, is this a horror movie? Are they trying to make it a horror movie? It's like from the very beginning with the like Frankenstein organ music throughout the entire movie, and, you know, like the lightning crashing and, you know, kind of the dark comedy of it. And showing the horror movies, and Joe Dante is like kind of known for doing horror-ish type movies. We're supposed to be doing horror movies in October, but I guess we're getting started a little early.
It's not really horror, but it's definitely playing on horror tropes.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not scary.
Well, it's your opinion. I mean, yes, I think it is. Yeah, I think comedy horror is a accurate description of it. I think it's, I mean, I'm seeing IMDb says comedy mystery thriller. I don't know if I go thriller.
Austin, why don't you say what you feel about this movie? You're holding back.
He's not into it.
I'm just, well, this is what I'll say. You know, you said it was peak Hanks. This is peak Feldman, but this is not Dante's peak.
No? What do you consider Dante's peak?
Gremlins.
Yeah.
Gremlins 1 over 2?
I think you got to go with the classic. Gremlins 2 is fun as hell, though. I don't know. I felt like this one, I wasn't feeling it as much as I do the Joe Dante movies. I don't know why. The comedy wasn't really landing for me. I thought that like the plot was very confusing, as we found out through the last hour. This is why I didn't want to say my opinion right off the bat, because talking about it with you and seeing the joy in your eyes with all the quotes, I mean, it is great. There are great lines. I love when he's like, a hideous raging inferno, or like when he's like, okay, hip cats, when he's like sitting on the car. You know, there's a lot of really fun things. But yeah, I felt like the movie is just like not tying together, and the whole ending is very confused. You know, it's like, are they good or are they bad?
I think the point is they were all crazy, and the fact that the Klopeks were guilty and that they were, you know, the neighbors were correct is only by chance, right? Like, there's absolutely no reason that they should feel or should have been vindicated. They're all as much of an idiot as you thought they were to begin with. It's just by sheer luck that they happen to be correct about this thing. And I don't know. To me, I think it's like you mentioned, like, you know, in the Twilight Zone episode, it didn't end that way, right? Like they were the crazy ones.
Yeah. So yeah, the double twist, I wasn't expecting the double twist.
Point of it was like, you know, it's a trope that, you know, we're playing into this very obvious, like, well, yeah, obviously these people are all crazy. And I don't know, to me, at the end of it doesn't suggest that they're not insane. They're all clearly insane.
Yeah.
It just happened to be right in this one instance.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just like the trunk full of bones. I was just like, really? Like, it's very, like, they're just kind of like, well, let's just wrap this up.
Exactly. Yeah. They got through it. They're like, we hit all the scenes, the touch points we wanted to. We had all the laughs, and we're just done here. No one's watching anymore. No one's paying attention.
It's a very rushed ending. And I think part of that is, at the time, you know, we're in a WGA strike right now. The Writers Guild of America is on strike. And at that time, when they went into production, the Writers Guild had just started a strike. So they couldn't have writers on set. The script was what it was. So a lot of the lines in the movie are ad-libbed. So you can get away with it that way. If it's just improvised, then it's not written. So like, a lot of the lines, like Satan is your pal, like that stuff, like that's all ad-lib stuff. So Joe Dante was really rushing through the production because
And I had to.
yeah, it's like they had the script that they had and they shot it all in sequential order and the Burbs.
The Burbs. That's what it is. And, I'm glad they did. I'm glad the writers were striking.
It's a perfect movie.
It's perfect. They would have just screwed it up. All right.
But apparently this movie got the worst reviews of any other movie in 1989. Like
Wow.
everybody hated it. It just got universally panned.
Believe it.
The
Yeah.
New York Times wrote the movie is, quote, as empty as a movie can be without being a vacuum.
Wow. Wow. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and Roger, you would agree that it's that as empty as a vacuum?
Oh, absolutely. I never claimed that it had any like real message to take away with it.
I feel like it is a vacuum in that it's like sucking up every possible idea.
I just enjoy what all the actors do with it. I think it's great.
Yeah. Bruce Stern is great. Carrie Fisher does all right.
Yeah.
She's looking good.
Leia herself.
Yeah.
You may know her from Star Wars.
You may.
Yeah, should we do our final thoughts on the Burbs here?
Those were my final thoughts. That was it.
We just did.
I mean, you should give your final thought, Zach.
I had a fun time watching the Burbs. It does. I feel like when they actually do go to the Klopek's house, I feel like the movie starts to I start to lose a little interest, or like, I don't know, like it loses some of the tension when you actually get to meet the Klopeks, and then you have just like the ending. It just like keeps getting more and more weird at the end, but there's a lot of fun stuff, a lot of fun scenes before that section, and there's still some fun lines and fun moments in the last half of the movie too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, talking about it with Rich, yeah, it makes me appreciate all the good moments, all the fun scenes, and it does make me want to watch more Joe Dante movies because it definitely, even if the script isn't perfect, like Joe Dante, he makes it as fun as the script possibly could be.
Yeah,
with the zoom in,
the bee in the mouth. The bee in the mouth.
Yeah, just like little details like that. You're not going to get that from other filmmakers.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's one in a million. I love Joe Dante. I'm a little on this movie, but I appreciate it being brought to our attention. I'm glad that I finally saw it, and it is fun. We're having a good time here. But I think that Joe Dante can really bring it with the fun level.
He follows this up with Gremlins 2. That's his next movie after this one, so it's kind of a big course correction.
Well, that movie's pretty bonkers, though, too.
I know it's like kind of a cult classic now, and I feel like the Burbs has kind of been reclaimed, too, over the years. People stick up for the Burbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's considered a cult classic now.
What time of year did it come out? I'm curious, actually. Was it... I thought I saw February somewhere, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was February 1989 is when it came out.
So kind of a weird timing too. Like if it was going for, like, even if you look at the cover of it, it's like it kind of is going for that like horror thriller kind of look to it. Obviously tongue in cheek, but like February, it's kind of a weird time,
Yeah, it's sort of a dead time to release a movie.
Yeah,
I think it did commercially do very well in the theaters, but just got panned by all the critics.
Oh yeah, a couple of fun details. There actually is a Gremlins little Easter egg in there. There's a Gremlins is on a cereal box.
Yeah.
Which I guess that actually was a type of cereal you could buy at one point, was Gremlins cereal, I heard.
Ooh. I'll try that.
And I also like in the beginning of the movie when you first see the dog like running around and like pooping on the guy's lawn. Like in the score of the movie, there's like this like dog yelping like in the mix of the score.
Yeah. As soon as it shows you it.
And I love that little detail. Little dog yelps in the score.
Yeah, it's a very unhinged sound design. Like when he like falls off the bench and like there's like a sound of like bowling pins, like a strike, like a bowling strike. There's a lot of really weird little sound effects going on, but that's kind of a Joe Dante hallmark. He's just having fun with it.
He's a silly guy.
Well, Rich,
it's been real.
Thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I want to thank our listeners for listening to the podcast as well.
Make sure to give our podcast 5 stars on wherever you're listening to this podcast, and make sure to follow us on social media at Film with Family on Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff.
And if you'd like to send us an email, you can send us an email at filmwithfamilypodcast@gmail.com.
And you can also follow me and Austin on Letterboxd. My handle is zacharyzweifler. Austin's Austin C. Pruett. See what movies we're watching on there.
Yep. And we love the movies.
And we love our family.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about your experiencing Jurassic Park last week.
Yeah, I know. Fantastic.
You guys took the kids out to see Jurassic Park in 3D, the 30th anniversary.
Yep.
And how'd it go?
I mean, it was great. You know, I saw the movie in the theater when it first came out, and I've seen it many times since. Loved it. I did not know that the 3D version came out 10 years ago. In 2013, and it is very well done. I was really, really super impressed with how well that works. It may be the kind of thing that I was aware of previous, but forgot about. But anyhow, no, I was pleasantly surprised by how nicely that worked out. But yeah, I mean, it's a classic. You know, it's one of those ones. Every time I watch it, I'm looking out for something that just doesn't work anymore, or doesn't fit, and it just isn't there. You know?
Yeah.
Was there a scene that really stuck out to you this most recent viewing?
I think every time I watch it, I pay a little bit more attention to the Nedry Dodson, you know, how all that works. Like when I was a kid, I didn't really give a shit about any of that, and it's all about the dinosaurs and the exciting scenes. And I think every single time I watch it, I just pick up on more of those details. Like I never noticed before when Dodson gets out of the taxi to meet Nedry and he just leaves the door open. Like the guy comes around and slams him. He's like, what the fuck? You know, it's like just this whole, like, he's a total asshole. And like, you know, and then obviously in like the Hammond side of things, which is a lot more prominent in the book, but like, it's one of those things like, you know, I think a lot of people say like Hammond's portrayed as way more of an asshole in the book than he is in the movie, which I think is right. But if you're paying attention, there's a lot of little Easter eggs about how he's, a cheapskate, really, even though he says spare no expense. And like, even though he's like, as a character, he's all jolly, there's actually a lot of little references in there that I, picked up on a little more this time, I think.
All right. Well, let's just end it there. Thanks again, Rich. I really appreciate it.
Nice to talk to you, Rich. Nice to meet you. This has been fun.
Nice meeting you, Zach.
Yes. Thanks, Rich. Love you very much.
Bye, guys.